So today we are going to talk about Patrice Talon. Patrice Talon, the president of the Republic of Benin. Patrice Talon, the president of the Republic of Benin. Recently, he has criticized strongly the leadership in Burkina Faso, in Mali and Niger, namely Ibrahim Traoré, Assimi Goïta, and General Chani. He criticized them for the fact that they have kicked out the French troops outside of their countries, and now they are unable to overcome terrorism.
They need their freedom. They want to be free. They want to live a free life.
If it doesn't touch your conscience, bother me your conscience. I want to bury it inside here.
Yes. Motivement Keita a parlé. Sankara a parlé. Goïta est en train de parler.
All the people that you see here are students. But the most important thing is that they don't know what to expect in the future. But the French kids who are going to school just like you, they know already when they finish the school, they have a job, they have a house, they have life.
Abba! America! Abba! France! Abba! England! Abba! Arab! Abba! Everyone! Abba! Africa, we stand together! Abba! Commando! Commando!
Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. If you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword. If you have two trousers, please sell one and buy a sword, because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is no longer on streets. This revolution is in the mind, because if you are not in charge of our mind, our bodies will be just tools that the enemy will use to enslave us and enslave our people. Once again, receive our revolutionary greetings from the African Continental Unity Party, ACUP. My name is King Kabbalah, and I'm happy to have you on this regular rendezvous where we talk about our affairs. We talk about African affairs. So today we are going to talk about Patrice Talon. Patrice Talon, the president of the Republic of Benin. Patrice Talon, the president of the Republic of Benin. Recently, he has criticized strongly the leadership in Burkina Faso, in Mali and Niger, namely Ibrahim Traoré, Assimi Goïta, and General Chani. He criticized them for the fact that they have kicked out the French troops outside of their countries, and now they are unable to overcome terrorism in their countries. So, in other words, for him, French troops had to remain in those countries to protect them, because France is the only capable, or I should say France is the protector of African people. African people on themselves cannot protect themselves. He said a lot of things, but the important thing, I guess, is that one. And secondly, he said that we can stay within the alliances that have existed since the post-independence period between us and former colonizers, but still be sovereign. Well, I'm going to leave you to listen to his presentation, to a part of his presentation, of course, and then I'm coming back to make our revolutionary analysis of his speech or his position, his critics of these leaders. And you also can have your own analysis in the comment, and we can have a conversation developing there. So please go through the part of his presentation, and we come back for more analysis.
Ceux qui ont chassé les Français, les Américains, les Allemands, ça y est, ils ont vaincu le terrorisme. La souveraineté, c'est la conscience qu'on a de soi. C'est la volonté qu'on a de soi à agir avec responsabilité, sans se courber devant l'autre. On peut être dans un partenariat et être souverain. On peut être dans la coopération et être souverain. Notez le coup de bon. On n'a pas besoin de rompre tous les liens de partenariat, tous les liens de coopération, tous les liens de relations internationales pour proclamer sa souveraineté. Être souverain, c'est être capable, dans un partenariat, de défendre ses intérêts. Dans une coopération, de défendre sa position, de défendre son intérêt. Et si vous avez les moyens d'acheter des armes en Amérique, ils vont vous les...
So, if we have all heard Patrice Talon criticizing the leadership in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger because they have kicked out France, Americans, Germans out of their countries, and they are unable to control the situation with regard to terrorism in their countries. And this is very, very important. And the first thing, actually, I want to talk about three things about this whole situation. I want to make three comments, and of course, as I said, you can put your comment in your also comment, of course, in the comment section. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the type of leaders that we have on the continent. And I'm reminding myself of Marcus Garvey when he said that every people in this world, the Jews, the French, the Germans, all the people in this world have sellouts among themselves, have people who can betray the main agenda for their own benefits. And in those countries, you find that the sellouts in those countries are mostly among the poor people, the people who have been, of course, deprived of certain privileges in the country, people who have been impoverished, people who have no access to the wealth and the privileges and all the benefits of the country are the people who are prone to betray their countries in other people's world or in other environments. But when it comes to Africa, it's very important because the sellouts among African people are those at top. Those at the top, those who are in the leadership positions, are the ones who are mostly inclined to betray and to sell out the continent. And that is what we are dealing with right here when Patrice Talon makes such a statement to say that, or to blame these leaders that they shouldn't have kicked the French troops out of their countries. You see, it reminds me again about the national anthem in Burkina Faso, which was written by Thomas Sankara. I think there's a section where it says that we are fighting against the foreign malice, which has metamorphosed itself into neocolonialism and its little local servants. So in other words, we are not just fighting the oppressors as we know them who came from Europe, but we are also fighting our own brothers who have been transformed into little local servants of neocolonialism, right? And these are the leaders that we have on the continent today. Most of our leaders are actually the employees of Western imperialism or neocolonialism today in the context of Africa. They are working for their employers to make sure that France, to make sure that America, to make sure that England get the most of what Africa produces, instead of the African people who are the rightful owners of Africa to benefit from their continent and the resources of their land. And this is very important. And that's the reason why, if you have noticed, they've been pushing these countries, Burkina Faso, to organize the elections, to transition to democracy. They have been pushing Mali, Niger to organize elections. Right now, these people have not even 5 years in power in those countries, but they've been pushed to prepare elections, to organize democracy, so forth and so on. But other countries on the continent, such as Cameroon, where the leaders have been there in power for more than 4 decades, Congo Brazzaville, where the leader has been there in power for more than 33 decades, a lot of countries on the continent where leaders have been there for more than decades. As we're speaking right now, in Ivory Coast, the leader who has been there in power for 3 terms, if I'm not mistaken, want to be in power want to campaign for the next elections. And that is Alassane Ouattara. You will never gonna hear about democracy in those countries because those leaders are the right servants, are good workers of the Western imperialism. They do everything in order for France, America, and all these countries and their multinationals to profit and to gain from the wealth of the continent. But when you have leaders who come to power and try to change the situation so that the common people, you and I, the civilians, can really have access to the wealth of those countries, those are the leaders that become a threat, and you see some other leaders on the continent begin to criticize them, as Patrice Talon has just did. So this is the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing that I need to talk about this is about the sense of sacrifice that we have to expect on this agenda to liberate ourselves. In reality, in life, there's nothing that you can get for nothing. If you want to have your farm producing corns or whatsoever, you will have to sacrifice a certain amount of seed in order to get the result that you want. The same thing, if you want the change from the people who have been oppressing you for a long time and have been depending on your oppression for to keep their standards of life, and you want to change that situation overnight, you're going to have to expect some punch back from those people. And that's what we have in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The terrorist situation there is just a kind of punishment to make these people and to make the rest of the continent realize that we shouldn't attempt this agenda of freedom, because if we try, we are going to face a situation of uncontrolled terrorist organizations in the country that will be creating chaos here and there. I mean, this is what is being done. But if we have to stay determined and focused and united against this little organization of terrorism that have been created, we can crush them and eventually find our freedom at the end of the tunnel. But when you see a leader begin to say that, okay, they've kicked the French out, but they are unable to overcome terrorism, it means for me that this leader has no sense of sacrifice in his mind. And these are the leaders who come to power not to endure any kind of hardship in order to correct and to fix the country. They come to power with their minds settled on access to wealth so quickly, to make their lives more, I should say, satisfied, to make their lives more enjoyable, and the rest of the people are languishing in poverty and in deprivation. When you compare Patrice Talon and Ibrahim Traoré, you will see the difference. Ibrahim Traoré every day is in his military attire. Every day, he doesn't change those things. He drives in military vans or military cars, while this Patrice Talon changes suits every day here and there, travels in the private jets to go attend all these nonsensical international conferences. Ibrahim Traoré doesn't travel that much, doesn't spend much of money or attention on himself, but he wants to fix the country, and these are the people that get criticized. So I think we need to understand that there's no change that will come in our lives without sacrifice. We need to be able and willing to pay the price for the change that we want. If we are unable to pay the price, then we have to accept the fact that the enemy shall remain in control of our lives, of our destiny, and give us the crumbs that he gives us from our own wealth, so that we can survive with that, and the enemy can just enjoy our wealth with his children and his 4 children. And that's reality. But if we want the change, we'll have to accept and expect some disruptions on our course right towards that goal of liberation and emancipation. This last thing that I want to talk about is about Benin itself, because this guy in his comment, he said also something that, as I said from the beginning, we can be sovereign while we keep the alliances with former colonizers, which is a contradiction, because for me, when you talk about sovereignty, you are talking about you taking charge of your life, your resources, and everything about you and your life, and you control and you determine what has to happen with your resources, your diamonds, so forth and so on. But if we have to keep the alliances that we have since the independence period, which we can call the neo-colonialist alliances, which have kept France in control of our resources, there's no way we can talk about sovereignty in that context. And this is the reality of the Benin country, Benin Republic today, because this is the country in which the main sector of the economy are cotton production, for textile, of course, agriculture, of course, palm oil. Those are the main industries of economy in that country. But the question that we have to ask is, who controls those industries? Are they being controlled by Beninois people, or are they under the control of foreign multinational corporations who reap the most of the resources or most of the benefits of that country to actually send overseas and leave the Beninois people and farmers, of course, hungry and impoverished, so forth and so on? I think these are the important questions that we need to ask. And when you ask these questions, what you realize is that Benin is not a sovereign country, because if you check what are the companies that control the cotton industry in Benin, what are the companies that control palm oil production, energy industry, you will see that they are all foreign companies controlled by either the US, France, so forth and so on. So this brings me back to the first point that I made, that we have leaders who are actually the employees of Western imperialism, and what they are there for is not to look after your interest or my interest. It's actually to look after the interests of their employers. And this is the situation that we have in Benin and other countries around the continent. And it is a situation that we still have to overcome as we are fighting with the European imperialism. We have to look also among us to see those who are there to undermine our efforts and to betray us, so that they can continue to serve the Western imperialism. Because you have to understand that the people who have gained their life standards, people who have come to power through Western imperialism, people have been brought into a privileged area through their collaboration with Western imperialism, would not accept some of us to take down the forces or this institution of imperialism in our lives. They will fight against us. This is what we see on the continent right now. So it is time that we stand up as African people. We begin to analyze our leaders in what they say and what they do, in order to categorize them in a proper category as the servants of their people, or rather the servants of Western imperialism. As Thomas Sankara said, that most of them are just little local servants. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to you all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. If you have 2 shoes, please sell one and buy a sword. If you have 2 trousers, please sell one and buy a sword, because now it is time for revolution, and this revolution is in the mind. We see you next time. Peace and love. Bye-bye.